Welcome to the Movers Resource Guide podcast, connecting you to the resources you need to create success. We chat with the best vendors, associations, mentors, movers, and more, giving you the information you need to make your moving company the best it can be. I'm your host, Brian Hassan, CEO of Wayfinder Moving Services in Buffalo, New York, and Apex Moving and Storage in Lakewood, Washington. I'm also the president of the New York State Movers Association. Today, we're excited to bring on Winston Davis of Move Up Consulting. Winston has been involved in the moving industry for a little over 6 years, 3 years as a sales consultant, and 3 years running Move Up Consulting. Move Up is a recruiting company that focuses specifically on the moving industry. So they really understand our industry, understand what we need, and are really good at recruiting field workers. And they have tons of practice doing this. As you'll hear, Winston has some great tips and tricks that we can use to get movers in the door so that we can interview them to bring them onto our teams. So I hope you enjoy the conversation with Winston on how to get qualified candidates sitting in front of you this summer. Welcome to the Movers Resource Guide podcast. We're glad to have you. How you doing today?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Love that you're doing this. We need more of this, and pumped to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. When we decided to do this, I'm like, man, one of the first guys I got to get on here is Winston. We got to get him on early in the year. We're all dying for people, right?
Yeah, timely, right? Timely.
Absolutely. So got to get my my expert over here at Move Up Consulting to give us, what we need to do to get qualified candidates sitting in front of us. I'd say this spring, but really we're into summer now. So what can we do to get some bodies in the door sitting in front of us here?
Yeah. So recruiting is, the people part of the business is, some people will say it's half of it, but it really is like it's 80, it's 85% of probably the whole business. Because if you don't have the guys, then doesn't matter how great your sales are. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, you hit it on the head. Like, I need qualified, real human beings sitting down in front of me at my office or warehouse that potentially could get hired today or this week. And, some of the things that I've built a philosophy around are a few like tenets of business, we'll call them pillars, to how you should do recruiting for your moving company. So one is, this is kind of a proactive one. It won't help you right here in the exact minute, but you need to recruit year round. And most moving companies don't do well of this. They're very reactive. And so when April and May come around and they start getting a little busy, that's when they start getting ads going, getting phone interviews, getting in-person interviews ramped up. And even though that it can be a seasonal business, you shouldn't have recruiting be seasonal. You should recruit all year round.
Yeah. And I think that, before we found you, it's like, oh crap, we need to hire people. Okay. Like, let's throw some ads on in Indeed and look for people and then do the phone screens and the interviews. And then I'd hire a few people and then I'd be like, okay, good. Now I can put that to rest. Now I got to go do these other things. And then, okay, crap, a couple of those guys didn't work out. We need more people still. Let's kind of go through that. And it's just it's a start and stop and start and stop. So when you say, hey, you need to be recruiting year round, what does that look like? What do you mean when you say that?
Well, recruiting is going to be different than hiring. So, we realize that in November or December, you might not need to be actually hiring 5, 10, or 20 people right now.
Yeah.
But it is a great time to build your recruiting database. So you're building, every month you should be building a pipeline of talent, because if you don't have a name, phone number, and email, how are you going to do outreach? And we'll get to the next point on outreach, but so you should do it year round, but you need to have a database. It could be as simple as like a spreadsheet if you're just kind of starting out and, you're not trying to spend a lot of money on direct overhead, or you can invest some money on, you could use a regular like CRM, like a HubSpot, or you could get a recruiting specific one. It really doesn't matter, long as you and your team understand it and have a process around it. So you don't have to always hire the people, but it is good to people that are great quality during the fall, winter, maybe early spring, when you're not trying to hire a ton of guys, you can level your overall team up. So there's probably a bottom third to your moving roster that are people that are kind of unaccountable.
Yeah. The
You
C
kind of
team.
just have them because, you kind of just have them because like they're there.
Yeah.
They call out sometimes, they show up late, they don't come in uniform, they don't follow the process all the time. They're not honoring all the core values, they're not meeting the standards all the time. And so it's kind of tough to say, but you should constantly be evaluating the roster and kind of pushing people out that are not about being there and bring in new, fresh, quality talent. So those are the two things in the off season. And then in the peak season, because you did all the work in the fall and the winter, you should be able to get started faster. And so you shouldn't feel the pinch as bad, but it's not always perfect.
So you'll go back to that. So step one is you leveled up. You brought some new people in that are better qualified than your C team, right? And then the second thing is you're saying you've built a spreadsheet or a database of qualified movers that are like, hey, they're not a rock star necessarily. They're not my A team guys that I want to replace my C team guys with, but they'd be a solid B team player. When I'm ready to hire
a good helper. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily going to be your driver coming in tomorrow, but definitely you can really solve helper and labor issues very quickly by having a good database. Yeah. And most of the time where your drivers come from are from people who started as helpers. And then they grew into the role. That's usually the best way. It just takes longer.
I mean, it's a great feeling when you can bring a guy in and you can invest in him and you can grow him within the company. I mean, it feels good for them. It feels good for you. You know him, you trust him. I mean, I wish I could do that 100% of the time. Right. But it's not always realistic.
So a big pillar there, recruit year round, right? If you're not doing that, you really it does take a little investment. It does take some time, but it alleviates a lot of headache. Now, another pillar is something I'm a real big believer in. I came from the sales background before I started doing recruiting, and I realized you have to have a sales mentality with hiring. Just like the real estate market, where like the real estate, it could be a seller market or a buyer market. The job market is the same way. So you can have an employer market or a job seeker market. We are currently still in a job seeker market. They have the upper hand.
No question.
No question. Yeah. No question. It's specifically, we're talking about hourly workforce. Different sectors, different industries can be different nuances, but for hourly workforce, 100%. So if it's the job seeker who has a little bit of the upper hand because of like supply and demand, then I'm going to need to do more outreach. I'm going to need to go towards them more. This is another thing that most employers get wrong, is they think I put up an ad, this person should contact me, they should follow up with me, they should be the one.
They should be grateful I'm giving them a job, right?
I'm giving them a job. And while yes, I get that, and I do believe in some of those things for sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to be right or do you want to be wealthy? I want to be healthy.
Yeah. I'd rather make the money than sit at home wondering why I can't. Yeah.
And right. And so it's not about being right. It's a true market status right now. So follow up. That means that when someone applies, you need to get to them quickly. Lead response, just like sales with lead response, candidate response time, getting to them is imperative. Good quality talent won't last more than 2 or 3 days.
So I really like that. I mean, you're saying, hey, take this guy, like he's a lead that you're going to move. And, if you have that call center mentality where that lead comes in and that's a hot lead for a potential worker. And that's just as important as a hot lead for a potential move.
Exactly.
I think that's fantastic.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so what all does that mean? Well, it means that you're going to need to have someone who is like the recruiter, who wears the recruiter hat in your business. Right. Now you may be If you're like a $1 to $3 million moving company, you might not have a full HR person. That's
Probably not.
probably not in the budget. Now, as
No.
you get to 5 to 10 million, that can be more of a realistic role, but the responsibilities are still there. So there's a lot of process and a lot of org chart work on the back end of who's in charge of these processes, putting the ads up, reaching out to new applicants daily, following up with people after, if your process is then doing a phone interview or whatever it is, we can talk about that. But there has to be the delegation in the process. And finally, the last pillar, the big belief here is you got to put statistics in your favor. There is truth in it's a numbers game. For every 100 applicants, you may have a legitimate 1, maybe 2 hires.
Which is mind-blowing to think of, right? Yeah. And because, 10, 15, 20 years ago, like you could put an ad out there and potentially get that many applicants without working too hard for it. Mm-hmm. Now to try to get 100 applicants to hire one, it's a taller task, right? Taller, yeah. And, just trying to filter through that many people is tough. But the way you talk about that, it's a funnel, just like your sales funnel. Right. And I haven't looked at it this way in the past, and I don't think many movers do, or business owners for that matter, looking at your mover hiring process as a lead generation process, as if it were, running in parallel, just like your sales process. Right. And I think that's a very foreign concept to a lot of people who may be listening to this. Yeah. So.
Well, and coming back to 100%, the funnel concept is very, very true. There's a lot of attrition, weeding out through the hiring process, and you do want a fair amount of that. But if with our industry, it's crazy, right? So, but to go back to a point, we talked about the first thing was recruit year round, and I want to make a point there is because it's a job seeker market, there are some dynamics with, and you said it, you verbalized it exactly the way that almost everybody that I ever talk to that needs help with hiring says it is, I need blah, 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 blah. Yes. And when you say it like that, man, I need these guys. Who's in the power position? They are. And so there's right away, most companies are giving their hand up. They're showing their pocket aces
right
at the table, and then what
pocket
happens?
Deuces,
pocket deuce. Yeah, we better recalibrate that. But employers are basically giving themselves away. Yeah. Man, just come on. Hey, we can get you started today. They're giving job offers at the interview. Yeah. I would never do that, right? Because when you do that, the dynamic is lost of that I have something of value and they need to earn it. It's now I'm giving them a job rather than them earning. And
that's an excellent point.
It's a mindset.
It's absolutely true. And I think you're right. And I think that until you're saying that now, I've probably lost sight of that, because sometimes when you're in that hiring mode and you feel like you've got a really good candidate in front of you, right? Good candidates aren't going to be available very long. So you're just like, I don't want to wait, let's get them in here. But I think that you bring up an excellent point there.
Yeah. And you should look, instead of, this is what I do in at Move Up, is instead of calling it a hiring process, call it a selection process. Because that's really what it is. You're selecting people, you're choosing, right? And if you own that, create it in the language in your SOPs in the company, use that terminology. And what it helps is it helps hardwire the mentality into the process. Language does matter. Yeah. When you sit with candidates, don't say it's a hiring process, say it's a selection process. Use the words, hey, in order for you to earn here, right? It's not for them to get a job. It's not for them to, come on board, join the crew. It's not like we're out picking them up at Lowe's. It's they need to earn and this is it right here. Treat it like a real job, right? If someone was going to a job at interview for an $85,000 a year white collar job working for corporate America, how would they do the process? How would they interview? How would they speak?
Yeah.
And then how do you do it? And that's where some of the disconnect is. And people think, well, man, nobody wants to work. Guys don't care. They don't care because you're
not presenting it in a way that you
didn't create the environment.
And this kind of goes back to, you're reaping what you sow, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should start sowing something different.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we're getting close to the halfway point here. So I want to hear your crazy moving story. Make me laugh here.
PG or PG-13 or rated R?
Probably not rated R, because I'm not quite sure who we've got listening or what little ears might be in the car with them. Yeah. So maybe PG-13, give or take a little.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is not rated R. It's fun. So back when I was working at College Hunks, I was this was my first year there. I was a moving consultant. And I had an intern that she was doing like marketing, I guess, for us. And she would come to estimates and like take some photos. So she came to estimate with me. This had to have been like her first month, like at her office. She was going to what school? She was going to East Carolina. And she grew up in Winchester, which is where our office was. And anyway, so I went to on-site estimate. I knew right off the bat when I did the confirmation call, like this was a wacko. And so we knock on the door. I think it was like a little townhouse, two-level townhouse, maybe less than 1,500 square foot, and opens the door. This lady, I mean, I just knew right away, like this is going to be a show. And I remember the intern, she, 20-year-old college girl, and she like laughs at everything. And she had to just do like this, put her hand over her face without just bursting in laughing. The woman, no lie, had 6 toes. 6 toes.
Okay.
On the foot. And I don't know why we noticed that right away, but it was later after the estimate that the girl was like, "Did you know that girl had 6 toes?" I'm like, "Saw him. Yeah, that's weird." Anyways, we go into the house, and the woman you've met people, right? You've been in the moving business a long time.
Yeah.
People are weird, and like she's just spooky. The way that she explained like her move and her house and her situation, and we were doing the estimate, doing the inventory. I go up to the bedrooms upstairs, and I guess it was her. This gets with the weird part. Her son's room, and very big, long horizontal dresser that has a big mirror hutch on it. And so we walk into the room. There's an adult toy sitting on the dresser, plain as day. And the intern girl, she's like lost it. She's laughing. She leaves. She walks out, and the customer, like, she seems like she framed it, but then she's like, she picks, that thing up, and she's like, "What in the world, Johnny," or whatever the kid's name was. She throws it across the room. She's like, "This is so embarrassing." And I just had to keep it together the rest of the estimate. Weird stuff, weird people. There's crazy stories all over the place. Lady with 6 toes and just strange lifestyle happening.
Normally when that happens, they're like try to discreetly like hide it all of a sudden or cover it up. Just throw it across the room.
No.
It reminds me, my wife does sales for us, and a few years back, I thought this is what you were going to say. So she goes up to the door. It's a move for an older gentleman, probably, unfortunately, has some mental decline and things like that. And, he opens the door and he's stark naked, just ready to do the estimate. And she had to delicately, coax him to maybe put on some clothes, and he didn't realize he was naked. He just didn't know. And so that was, you get some very uncomfortable, unfortunate situations going on.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I guess I was like 20, 21 years old,
Oh yeah. That's
go to,
shocking.
Like, older ladies' home, like people hitting on you and stuff. It's like, look, I'm just trying to do my job here. Like, weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you for enlightening us on that one. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
um, okay. So, getting back to the serious stuff now, back in line
Stuff,
here. Yeah. So what other advice do you have for us here?
Well, I was thinking about this, Brian, and most people always ask me like, hey, what do you put in your ads? Like, what do you put in your ad copy for your hiring ads? And like, how do you get to apply? And a couple tips on this.
Okay.
One is the majority of people who apply to jobs apply Monday through Wednesday. And it greatly drops off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday is like okay, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like probably a third.
Okay.
Compared to Monday and Wednesday.
So that's contrary to what I would think, because I would think like Friday, they're done with the week. They're mad at their job. Let me go apply.
That's
or
what
it's
over
the weekend. They're just like, I can't do it. I now have time to do it. So I'll apply.
Here's the reality of what it is. That's what
hit me with the truth here.
Yeah. And I pulled this comes from a Glassdoor, which is a very reputable hiring review company. So what happens for people is Monday is the worst day. Why? Because you got the rest of the week to go. And so if you have a job that you don't like and you don't like the people there, then it's like, oh, I got 4 more days of this. The despair, the stress, right? There's no relief. But by the time you get to Thursday, Friday, the week's almost done.
Yeah, I got through it.
Saturday. I'm almost, it's like I'm almost out, and people live for the weekends. This is like the big, and I don't live like this. I don't
right.
That's how most Americans are, is they live paycheck to paycheck and they live for the weekends, and they pretty much slave to a job that they don't like Monday through Friday. And so that's why most people apply to jobs. They come home on Monday evening or Monday afternoon, and they're hitting up Indeed. They're hitting up ZipRecruiter. They're hitting up whatever, applying. And so Monday is the most, Tuesday is almost just as much as Monday, and then Wednesday is right up there too. But then it greatly drops on Thursday, and then way more on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
So that's my point is, if you're going to put ad money, if you're going to advertise dollars, you should actually double down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
And forget the rest of the week.
Turn off the money the rest of the days. And that should be your process. Yeah.
If the data's there, that's excellent advice, because it's counterintuitive, I would think. Maybe other people disagree, but to me, that's counterintuitive. So that's a fantastic nugget for us there, Winston. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and it's stuff that it just takes. I mean, we've done recruiting at Move Up for probably 150 moving companies. Wow. Think how long it would take if you own one moving business. How many years would it take you to learn the stuff that we've learned at Move Up in the last year?
You probably couldn't in a lifetime. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Well, that's you got some awesome information here, Winston. Is there anything else you want to let anyone know before we sign off here, or do we get the best of what you got?
Well, I think all in all, it's some mindset stuff. It's getting a process around it and having someone dedicated to it in the business, whether it's you as the owner or a manager or whoever. And so most companies, they're just dragging their feet on it. Treat recruiting the same way you treat sales, the same way you treat advertising and operations, and it will get better. It's not, you can't just throw your hands up and say, nobody wants to work.
That's what we hear, right? I think as we went through COVID, that was a lot of it. Like, hey, we're throwing our hands up. I don't know what to do. There's no way I'm paying people that. I can't get people in. And, that's my first question to people when they say, well, I can't find anybody. Okay, well, tell me what you've done and tell me what you've done differently over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And the answer is usually nothing. They haven't done anything different. So,
which was the definition of insanity.
Yeah. Trying to do the same thing over and over again.
Over and over and expect a different outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to kind of close that up, you need to do something different. We found success in that. And you've given us a lot of advice here that, if we don't have the money to outsource something, or we have the time on our staff to do these things, we can take these away, take them with us and do them. if people are like me though, and they just flat out do not have the time to do a good job recruiting consistently year round, how can they reach out to you and connect with Move Up?
Yeah, so we'd love to have a conversation. That's really where it all starts, figuring out where somebody's at. So you can check us out at moveupconsulting.com. There's probably a form or a button there. Just, fill out some info. You can schedule a call right from the site. And what we do is we just start with a consultation call, see where you're at, what you need. And then we've got different packages that fit all size moving companies. And we're specialists. We're specialists in recruiting, but we also niche in moving and storage companies. We don't work with any other types of businesses. Yeah. And all the stuff that we talked about, these are all things that we do, we leverage, and this is what we bring to the table. So yeah, we'd love to
and that's people. Yeah. And it's important when you're niche because now your recruiter isn't trying to talk to 25 different job types, right? They're talking to movers every day. They know what they're talking about with that. So that's fantastic. Winston, you're awesome. You're a young guy, but like you're wise beyond your years.
Well, maybe with recruiting, the wisdom is catching up with everything else in my life.
Yeah. But hey, you're energetic. You're focused. I know you run a big company. We really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us today and kind of give some people some information. Really appreciate you. You're doing a fantastic job. And I hope people do reach out to you and get some help with recruiting.
Appreciate that, Brian. Appreciate it. Well, thanks for having me. And guys, you got to go listen to more of the episodes. This is the number one moving podcast. And
hey, there we go. You heard it right here.
That's right.
All right, cool. Well, have a great day, and maybe we'll talk to you again in the future.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
All right. It was great to hear from Winston. We really appreciate him coming on the podcast. We thank you for listening. Hopefully you learn some things that will help you get some qualified candidates sitting in front of you for this summer season. Really appreciate you being here. If you have any suggestions or people you'd like us to bring on the show, please email us at moversresourceguide@gmail.com. Once again, I'm Brian Hassan. Thank you for listening. Now get moving.